D&D bags, my name's Tom and welcome back to another item of the week where I look at weapons, armours, items and trinkets that you can use in your roleplay campaigns. So today we're going to be looking at the hauntingly fascinating Phantom Quiver. So to look at, the Phantom Quiver is nothing short of an ordinary quiver for your arrows. However, it has to be noted that the leather is particularly old and the buckles are rusted and worn. Inside is a pale light blue arrow, translucent and ghostly by nature. This arrow can readily be taken from the quiver and feels cold to touch. The arrow can even be knocked in a bow and fired as usual. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We talked about what it looks like, but what does it actually do? So as I mentioned previously, the Phantom Quiver holds a single ghostly arrow, which can be knocked in a bow and fired as usual. However, the special ability of the Phantom Quiver is that when the user reaches back to take another arrow, that arrow that has been fired will disappear and reappear back in the quiver. Essentially, this means the user has infinite arrows to some extent. But don't be fooled, it's actually a single arrow that dissipates in its ghostly nature and reappears back in the quiver. Now for any adventure, this would be an infinitely useful item, saving them having to buy arrows or pick up arrows from the corpses they've left. It also allows the user to stop the arrow mid-flight in case they fired at the wrong target. Now what I mean by that is if you fire the Phantom Quiver's arrow at a wrong target, you can reach back to your quiver and mid-flight the arrow will disappear and reappear back with you. This can be useful for not only reducing collateral damage, but also as an intimidation tactic. If you wanted to scare someone, you could fire the arrow at them without the fear of actually hitting them, because you can just reach back and make it disappear. And again, it doesn't matter if you lose your arrow, because you can always get it back by just reaching back to the quiver. Also note the bonus feature of the Phantom Quiver in that any damage that you do using that arrow will be necrotic damage. And one last feature for the Phantom Quiver is the ghostly arrow is actually indestructible, meaning you can use the arrow as a tool in dungeons. If a giant stone trapdoor is slowly closing, you could put the arrow to prop it open so it doesn't close. Alternatively, you could use it as a tool like a crowbar, using it to crack open sealed chests or doors. Okay, so we've talked about what it looks like, we've talked about what it does, now let's talk about where you'd find such a spooktacular item. Now with any ghostly item, the undead are likely to be tied very closely to it, and the Phantom Quiver is no exception. In fact, it's rumoured that you can find this quiver aboard ghost ships that sail the sea dead at night when the moon is full. These ghostly galleons sail the midnight sea with no crew aboard. However, the time frame for boarding such an apparition is very short. Any clouds that pass in front of the moon make the ship disappear. Only pure moonlight can actually show it to you. Now if you were lucky enough to come across one of these apparitions at the right time, at the right place, and happen to board it, if you went down below decks into the cargo area, you would find a single chest holding the Phantom Quiver. Sailors and fishermen alike assume these galleons are pure myth. However, a few die-hard believers insist that this single arrow belonged to the captain of that lost ship. Now your players don't have to go venturing on the high seas to try and find this arrow. It could also belong to a phantom archer. Perhaps a local folk hero who went missing many years ago still stalks the wood at night, using his Phantom Quiver to take down anything that would threaten his village or town. If the PCs were to assist this local hero finding peace in the afterlife, he or she could gift the Phantom Quiver to the party as a final gift. And finally, perhaps the Phantom Quiver actually belongs to a vengeful revenant. This shadowy stalker could hunt down those that assisted in their murder during their life. One by one he would pick them off using the Phantom Quiver and a Phantom Bow. Again, if the players were to assist this Phantom fulfill their revenge, they would get the Phantom Quiver. Alternatively, if they stop this vengeful spirit, they could also take the Phantom Quiver. After all, it's up to you how you want to reward your players. Okay, so we've covered everything, including where to find the Phantom Quiver. Now let's talk about some alternate versions. Now playing on the ghostly theme, perhaps the Phantom Quiver gains souls as you kill people using that Phantom Arrow. And what I mean by that is each creature with a soul that you kill using the Phantom Quiver and its arrow, another arrow appears in the quiver. This means that the player using the Phantom Quiver can gain arrows by killing others. Gaining more arrows means you can fire more of them in one turn, and also use more of them as tools in dungeons. However, a side effect of collecting more souls for the quiver is that your player looks more and more undead. With a large amount of souls in the quiver, dark patches will appear under the character's eyes and they will lose weight rapidly, showing their bones through their skin. This will cause the character to have disadvantage in any charisma check apart from intimidation. In this alternate version, we're playing on the humanity of the character. The more souls they collect and the more people they kill means the less human they become. Another alternate version you can use with a phantom quiver is that the arrow has some sentience. This means when you fire the arrow, you will have a limited control on where the arrow goes mid-flight. Now it's up to the DM to decide what kind of advantage this provides. On one hand, it can provide a literal advantage to hit, and on the other, it can provide a few bonus points towards hitting. Another side effect of the arrow being sentient is it could detect other ghostly presence. The quiver in the arrow could communicate with other undead presence, acting as an ambassador for the party or the character. Now, depending on how the user treats the arrow and the quiver, could determine on whether the arrow will vouch for you or not. Now, another interesting feature you could have if the quiver and the arrow had sentience is perhaps they're looking for their final resting place. If you could communicate with the arrow and the quiver, perhaps they have a set of things they need to do before they can be released from this world. It could be the arrow's looking for its final target, the person that killed its old user. Alternatively, perhaps the ghostly arrow is looking for other ghostly arrows scattered across the land to finally complete the collection and they'll all be released. Or finally, perhaps the arrow is looking for its old user's final resting place so it can join its old master. But again, with all of these alternate versions, it's completely up to you and your players. As a DM, you can change it to fit the party or fit the world that you've created. Just have fun. Hey, thanks for watching Item of the Week. Be sure to leave a comment down below on how your players reacted to this week's item. Also, be sure to check out my channel for more Item of the Week and other D&D content. Hitting that subscribe button will make you the first to know when new videos come out. And finally, don't forget to drop me a follow on Twitter and check out the full Item of the Week archive in the link in the description.